Okay, we'll quickly mention the other components that we can use with my. But before we do that, let me just show you the homework for this. So homework 1 is make a form that allows the user to copy a picture or text, I should say. And a button will paste that picture into a picture box on the form. If the user has copied text, then that will be pasted into a label. Okay, so your code has to be intelligent enough to know which is which. In other words, whether there is a picture or text that the user has copied. So what's on the clipboard, and then when they press the button, whatever's on the clipboard will go into the right place. If the user has pasted text, the other thing is that this application should do is the word text should be saved to a file called pasted.txt on the desktop. If the user has pasted a picture, then the word picture should be saved to the same file, to this file here. Then also, can you figure out a way also to include the time that the user has performed the action? So to also write that into this pasted.txt file. So if you can, try doing that also. And then homework number 2 is just extra credit. Try to make a form that allows the user to select a WAV file. So remember, we had some dialog boxes before that you might go back and try to figure out how to use those again, or however you want to do it, so they can select a WAV file and play it. So that's an extra credit, optional one. Okay, now let's go on to these other components. So there's my forms. This component lets you access forms of the current application. You can also access the application's forms by name, so the forms component isn't one of the most useful. So that's like if you have multiple forms in your application, you can use this, or you can just access those forms by name. My.settings, this component lets you access the application's settings. These settings apply to the entire application and are stored in an XML configuration file. The settings are created from within Visual Studio, and you use the settings component to read them. My.user, so that may not be so clear, but okay, let's go on. My.user, this component returns information about the current user. So maybe has, well, I don't know. Let's see, the most important property of the user component is the current principal property, which is an object that represents the credentials of the current user. So I'm not quite sure what that means. You can try and check it. My.webServices, the web services component represents the web services referenced by the current application. So I guess it's like if the application has to go and read some database that's on the internet somewhere, or if it somehow accesses something on Google, like maybe it accesses Google Finance or Yahoo Finance or something like that, you can access that stuff through My Web Services, supposedly. So he says finally, the My component gives beginners unprecedented programming power and allows you to perform tasks that would require substantial code if implemented with earlier versions of the language, not to mention the research it would take to locate the appropriate methods in the framework. You can explore the My component on your own and use it as needed. My is not a substitute for learning the language in the framework. It can help you initially, but you can't go far without learning the methods of the framework for handling files or any other feature. Okay, in the next video we're going to look at Chapter 2 and talk about variables, which of course you've talked about many times. But also we're going to realize that variables are objects, and we've said that a few times today in this lecture. And we've talked enough about constants, so I won't talk about constants. And arrays we've talked about, but we're going to go into some more detail.